Hey everyone, how you doing? Welcome back to another episode of McCall Media TV Live, whereby in today's broadcast, I'm going to be talking to the lovely Solina, who is going to be talking to me and us, I should say, all about our to-do list procrastination, strategies, busting hints, tips, that kind of thing. To basically, if you're like me, my to-do list grows quicker than I actually ever have chance to kill any of the items on it. So that's what we're about today. So I'm just going to play my little intro if I can find it, and we'll get cracking. Hey Solina, how you doing? Welcome to my little Thursday afternoon or Thursday evening chat. I've just set off my Suri. She obviously thinks Suri and Solina sound the same. Let me turn my phone off. Oh my God, this is a good start to the day. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing really well. How are you?
I'm doing okay.
After Suri.
Suri's doing it as well. Oh, okay. I hope the evening doesn't carry on like that. But anyway, how are you doing? Introduce yourself to everybody that's watching.
Yeah, so I'm Solina. I'm a business systems strategist and efficiency coach. So I work with visionary business owners who are looking to create make a bigger impact in the world. And it's all about supporting them to create sustainable business growth, really. So without all the hustle and the craziness, but make it more sustainable so that they can make the impact that they really desire.
Okay, cool. So you and I were basically having a chat, what was it, about 3 weeks ago now? And we was having sort of, I can't remember how the whole post came about, but it was the whole, I think I made some comment on Facebook about my to-do list growing faster and you having some strategies and that kind of thing. I thought, oh, actually, this might be quite a good topic to cover. So what are you going to be talking to us about tonight?
So I'm going to be sharing really why it's important to think about your to-do list and to think about what you're taking on, thinking about planning strategies as well, because it's about being effective. So it's looking at how people can make themselves even more effective as business owners, as business leaders. And then I'm going to talk about some of the challenges as well and how to overcome that.
Okay, sounds cool. So what's the first thing on the agenda? Because obviously I haven't got, unlike other people, I've had little hints and tips that they're going to go through. I'm like, oh, I'm completely clean here. Yeah. What a surprise.
I know. So I'm really going to start with, as I said, the reason why this is important. One, for me, but also as business owners and business leaders as well. Why thinking about your to-do list is important. Often, as I said, I know from myself, we have overstructured to-do lists. Like you said, we've got, miles and miles of things just overflowing. But what I found as well, the more we grow, if we really want to grow and make impact, we can't make the impact that we really want to if we're, kind of all over the place and we've got too many things and we're trying to cram things in. So it's really to set the perspective that, as I said, the more we're growing, the more we want to make impact. It's about examining and thinking why you do what you do and choosing and selecting the things that are on our to-do list. So that's kind of just a little bit of a background to set the scene. What I find as well as I said, that people are either putting too much on, they're trying to cram too many things in. Everything feels like it's really important, but they're not really taking time to plan. And I think I found this myself. We can get so much into the day-to-day doing of what we've got to do that we don't take a step back and we don't, take our foot off the brakes. We're just going and going and going constantly. So it's about,
Is it going to say, so is it more of a case of sort of doing a top level approach maybe to your week, or do you do this on a daily basis or a monthly basis to sort of think, right, this is the big agenda, and then when you're focusing down and you've got your to-do list of items, you're trying to work out which is actually more efficient to enable you to get to that end goal, if that makes sense? Is that kind of where we're going with this?
It's that as well, yeah, because it's about, but what I would say, you start with the whole kind of, if you're thinking about your year, your whole big year, your big kind of goals. So you move right out. And then, as I said, it's something you can do every week, every month, and every day. And then making sure that they fit with that bigger picture and that bigger agenda. So that when things do start to become crazy, we've always got that base to go back to and that point to go back to all the time.
Cool. So, so with regards to what you've got going on in house, so what is the strategies then to be able to help us actually manage that list? Because I know, I'm not kidding you. I bought one of these, and what is it? It's kind of what's it called? One of these. Where is it? A pucker pad, and it is literally a things to do. Okay, and I go through like 4 or 5 pages on a daily basis, just every time. But the good thing I find by doing something like this is that I actually get the clarity in my head again, because I get the idea that's just come up out and on paper, and then I can kind of use it as my memory, and I can just I don't, when you're trying to retain everything in your head and it gets really noisy in there. But if I'm totally honest, these 2 pages, which is just from today, I will probably rip out for tomorrow, so I've got a clean slate, and then I'll add them to my list. And that's pretty much as far as they get. So yeah, so think up your worst case scenario. How do you like me? And then you just can't go wrong, Solina.
So first thing is a to-do list. If we're looking at, actionable, real stuff that we can deal with, it's about having no more than 3 to 5 key priorities on that list.
Okay, I feel like I'm told 3 to 5, right?
You know. Once you've done your 3 to 5, then you now look at, okay, what's my next load of priorities? Why am I doing it? And how does it fit? So that's kind of one of the first things I would say, is looking at the length, because it's not about, as you said, putting, and I, been guilty of this, putting miles of everything on paper, because one, that makes us feel really bad because we never get through it. And that's also why we get stuck in procrastination. Two, it starts feeling really scary, doesn't it? Because you go, oh, I'm not going to do it. And then we find washing up, watching TV, and doing all those other things.
Especially while we're all stuck at home in lockdown, the number of times I found myself actually going to do the washing up, and I'm like, I'm not a person that does washing up.
Exactly, because we've set ourselves up to fail, haven't we? Because we've got this fat shopping list that we're not going to get through. So our brain goes into panic and can't achieve it. Okay. Too long. So that's kind of why. So keeping it precise. The other thing as well with that is about how we organize it. So I know sometimes it's bad when we literally just write down a list of words. There's no kind of clarity in terms of the actual task. We just kind of write, or it might be, for example, social media, create blog. Now, that's kind of that's not an actionable step.
It's a bit like get up, do your teeth. It's vague.
Exactly. So that's not very clear. Instead, if we're writing things like, okay, create draft content, or plan how to, so it's got a little bit more legs, or even within that blog, what's the individual steps, like how can you break it down even more to make it more actionable, but also make it more bite-sized and achievable for us as well.
Okay, so I've got my 3 to 5 key tasks, but the importance isn't just the number of them, it's the message that we're actually giving ourselves, as making it as specific as possible. So essentially, let's take it in this sense then, because you just mentioned a blog article. Instead of just writing today's blog article, you could actually say, as in like maybe 3 or 5 tasks, go find 5 images, go work out your SEO keyword research for this, go and find 3 questions that people are asking in the internet community relating to this subject, and then structure your before, middle and after content kind of thing. And then that actually would be 4 tasks that would get you probably through that task. Am I on the right? You're not doing right.
That is exactly it. Because when you say that, you broke it down in that way, how does that feel emotionally and kind of, to you as you think about it?
Well, I think what it's coming up with is actually, 3 images. Let's just say that was one of the items on there. Well, that's like bang, 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 go do it, make a cup of coffee, go and do what you need to do, come back, sit down, next task. And I know it's probably going off track a little bit, but there's that whole, and I can't remember what it's called. It's like an Italian tomato.
Pomodoro.
That's the one. Oh my God.
Love it.
I've got the app on my phone. I can never say it because it's Italian. But yes, I don't think it's like 20-minute blocks, or I've fiddled with the time on mine, to be honest with you. But I think originally, and that kind of thing, 3 images in 20 minutes, cup of coffee, sit down, work out your before, middle, and after 3 minutes. That is just, I love it.
Now, that feels fun, doesn't it? It doesn't feel kind of like, oh, I've got to write my blog today. Oh, I think I'm going to wash instead. Because it's like, and you can tick that off, can't you? It's like, cool. Found my pictures. Great. I've achieved something today. Because often we kind of sit there all day, don't we? And it's like, oh, I've achieved absolutely nothing. What have I done? Oh, but it's like, right, that's tangible. That's quick. You can see it ticking off and moving, and it moves you forward as well. I was
going to say, isn't that self-propelling though? It's kind of self-motivating actually when you feel like you're getting small mini tasks achieved. Yeah. Cool.
And as you brought up as well, the Pomodoro, that's a brilliant it's a brilliant tool as we're talking about this as well, because it is that sort of bite-sized task, work for 20 minutes, break for 5, work for 20 minutes again.
Yeah, I can't remember what the original times were. I think I've tweaked a little bit since I actually downloaded it. And it's one of those things. I think I actually found it about well over a decade ago when I was at uni. I think someone broke it down, gave it to me then. But yes, and for anybody watching who have no idea why we're talking about Italian tomatoes, I will find some links after this and I will put them in the description on the YouTube and various platforms that we're live on today, which I haven't actually mentioned, but we are live on my Facebook page, my Facebook group, my YouTube channel, and on Periscope at the moment. Excuse me.
Nice.
My throat just went dry. Okay, so you carry on. I need my coffee.
So the next thing is about when we have our list, when we've identified our priorities, and it's about maybe color coding or rag rating in order of the priority. So you might have your 3 to 5, you might have the key things that you've identified, but really it's about being able to rank them. So think about what's important, find your system for you that works as well.
So are you talking like, I mean, I'm quite good at like visual things, so I generally use traffic lights for most. If I'm working on any kind of large like Excel list or anything, I always generally have a kind of a red, yellow, or amber, whatever you want to call it, orange, and a green. As in green, it's kind of done. Red, it's not. I'll do this a lot with my accounts. Actually, I have an end of month checklist to sort of keep an eye on my cash flow, make sure I've got the right money that I need in my bank account at the right time for my, because I have subscriptions for so much digital software. It's unbelievable. So that then, of course, I've signed up to all of them at different times of the month. So it's kind of like that way I kind of use that kind of a checklist system. But how does other systems work? Because, everybody's familiar with the whole red, green and I was going to say blue, red, green and blue. I don't know what's going on with me this evening. Honestly, it's all gone out the window. But give us some other strategies if that's not your cup of tea.
So if you're not a kind of a rating in terms of color, it could be numbering. It could be, you put little images next to them. Now, you also could be thinking about it in terms of completion, but in terms of deadline as well. So if you've got something, kind of, again, you've got if you don't know, the Eisenhower matrix, so the important, urgent, and all of that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've got books on everything. It's probably around here somewhere. I was just going to say there's a good strategy somewhere. And there's another one to do with eating.
Eat the frog.
Yeah, I got my frog book here. See, I'll put a couple of links for these as well in the descriptions below, because these are I like that one because nobody likes eating frogs.
But yeah, it's things like that. So as you said, with the frog, obviously you do your biggest task first. So on your list, you'd be identifying what is the biggest. Now, it could be biggest in terms of impact. So what's it going to be giving? It could be biggest in terms of the deadline. So if something needs to be done for a client, or you need to put something, or you need to create something, then that obviously is the biggest in terms of that way. It could be the biggest in terms of financial, because there's going to be a goal. It could be, whatever reason is driving it. So that's a good way to get things out in terms of, because also when things are big and scary, we often put them off. So they sometimes sit and they sit and they sit. So the principle, obviously, that you deal with your biggest thing, so you get that out of the way.
Okay. Okay, so you mentioned the Eisenhower. I'm looking for my book
Yes.
again, and I do have it because now this is me absolutely useless with names and things like that. But I remember the 4 grids,
Yeah.
and one of them is like sort of priority and importance, and I know there's a point scoring system. I tell you what, you walk us through it because I think you're going to get the execution of this a lot better than me rambling on. So you go for it. How does that work?
So basically what it looks like in the 4 quadrants is, in terms of importance. So you've got things that are urgent, you've got things that are important, and you've got things that are and then you've got things that are not important at all.
Yeah.
So again, it's about rating. So you've got things that are urgent and then it kind of meet within the scale as well. So it's like assessing the different tasks that you're doing each time. So if something is, again, kind of, high urgency, you need to do it, it's kind of, again, going to move things forward, then it's choosing that. But also you might get things that are urgent in terms of they're a crisis. So you're firefighting, you're doing it, it's come into your list, but it's more of a firefighting thing. So we don't want to spend all of our time in things that are in crisis mode, but it's about looking at things that have the urgency, but also are important because of their bigger reason as well.
Okay. And so essentially, from what I remember of that system, I haven't actually used that one too much, but what I remember of it is a case of that whichever item you put in each of those 4 quadrants has a different point scoring system, and then you add up, and then it's the ones with is it the biggest points that you concentrate on first, and that kind of like then shuffles your list. So it's probably something that's quite nice to do on something like an Excel spreadsheet, because you've got your sorting algorithm, as it were, and then you can sort of shift up to the top the ones that you need to focus on.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, and as I'll kind of come on to a little bit more as well in a bit, it also looks at how you're spending your time. So if you're always on, like I said, urgent, firefighting, but you're or you're on low value, they're nice to do's, but they're not really moving you forward, then you're not going to see the progress. So it's about looking at that kind of balance of where the time is going as well.
Okay, so what else have you got on your list to basically help us with today with our to-dos?
So again, I think what that leads me onto as well is thinking about how you're spending your time. So are you in high value tasks or are you in low value tasks?
So this always gives me the picture, the whole graceful swan moving along the lake, and but it's like paddling away like under the water. That's kind of where this ethos sort of springs to mind with me at the moment. Is that kind of what I'm talking about, or you're talking about?
Yeah, it is. So there are things that, for example, in our business now, one of our things that are high value might be things that are income generation based.
Okay.
So tasks that are going to create, help you move forward in terms of your business, your brand. They're going to bring clients. They're about client work. They're about bringing in new business. Those things obviously are kind of key and essential to business owners. There are also things that we do that are, for example, we might spend, our website is key, obviously, but there are stages where if you were spending time prettying up your website, making your website great, but you haven't maybe worked out some of the other parts of your business, then again, it's not going to give you the results you want. So it's about looking at that. And when you're planning the different tasks that you're doing, being really clear about the value that they bring. So why am I speaking to, if you're maybe going live on Facebook, is it part of my strategy? For example, that might be, a high value task because it's part of your visibility strategy. It's part of a bigger picture. You've thought about why you're doing it. Whereas if you kind of say, I'm going live because, and I'm spending my time going live because, but it's not connected to anything, then it's not moving you forward. So it's about looking at that as well.
Can I just jump in there as well? So one of the other little things that are kind of popping into my head as you're talking there is also about how you value your own personal time, because this, I think, is one of the things that a lot of small business owners fall into the trap of, is that they think because it's me I can save myself money by doing XYZ. And I excuse me, I had a chat once that sticks in my head a lot with my dad, because we were talking about me hiring someone to cut my grass. Now, he was like, Ange, don't be so blooming lazy. And I'm like, well, no, it's not that, Dad. It's actually the fact that I've got XYZ to do. And while it takes me an hour to fluff around doing a task I don't like, I could have earned that money 3 or 4 times over for the 10, 15 quid it's going to cost me to get a guy in that actually just likes walking up and down with a lawnmower, you know. And it's that kind of valuing your task. So valuing your time and putting your time into the tasks that actually are where you're strongest at.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say?
That is a massive point, there, because as you said, if you're doing something that you're not good at, you don't like, isn't bringing you any value, but you're doing it. Yes. And actually, as I said, as small business owners, there is a stage where we are doing everything ourselves, because one, that's where we are. Maybe financially we haven't grown, so we keep on to things, but there's a stage where you need to grow past that, and it's about bringing in the experts to grow your business. So valuing your time, your skill, your expertise, and being able to outsource, to delegate, to give away, and to understand the value of what you're doing and why you make the decisions you make, and really analyzing the tasks that you're doing. So if I'm putting this on my to-do list, what's the actual value? Is that something that would be best served with someone else, or is it about I'm going to do it because it moves me forward in this way?
It's sometimes quite a hard pill to swallow, if I can just jump in there, because there's the whole I'm a control freak kind of concept, because nobody in the world does things the way that I like them done, because I can only do them the way that I do them. The whole saying, if you want a job done properly, you do it yourself kind of thing. And also there's the whole, you've mentioned obviously money. Sometimes this is easier said than done when you're on the starting line with your business. But as you progress on, one of the things that I think also comes out of this is that actually, if you know how to do the task, it means that you actually are able to explain that verbally, communicate it with someone, and then pass it over. And I think there are a few exceptions that people do probably need to consider straight off. And I know we've digressed a little bit from the to-do list, but things like your accounts. Now, my mum taught me how to do the double entry bookkeeping, because she was an accountant. We're talking old school ledgers here. When I was a teenager, I used to do pocket money and earn it by doing all the math for her. So I get, pulled the pants off me, made me realize I wasn't going to be an accountant in life. But anyway, essentially I used to do that. But when I started up my business this time around, because obviously those that are watching know that I've had like 2 or 3 years out from solopreneurship, I knew that actually I could sit there and spend 3 hours trying to figure out how to reconcile my bank account to what I spend, or I could actually pay someone to do it who will do it in 20 minutes. And yes, I've got that as an expense, but if I actually start on the starting line with that expense in mind, it means I can build it into my costs, which means I've actually got the money available to outsource as we go along, if that makes sense.
And there's a really good point you made there as well, is that if you're going to be handing something on to someone, that's when you can create good manuals. You can recreate, standard operating procedures, because you can write it down. You can create it as a system. So it's also, really strengthening your business, because you're going to have that, written down. It's a procedure now. It's a process. It's a system. It's a structure, which is definitely back for your business as well.
Cool stuff. So I know we've sort of weighed off a little bit in there with regards, but I think it's all good content. It's all good content. It's all relevant. So is there anything on your to-do list for today's meeting? See what I've just done there? That we haven't covered?
The other thing I was going to say, and I think just to kind of round up, that we said we get lots of, you were talking about your to-do list being full of a lot, and maybe more than 3. We can do the brain dump. So as you kind of think, right, I want to achieve this, I've got all these things, and you write it down, it's fine to have that. And you can have that as a master list. But then that's where you take off, the next things, and you identify from that master list, from that brain dump, these are the areas that I'm going to focus on.
So it could almost be like we actually bring 2 or 3 of the different strategies in together that we've actually discussed today in and actually work one process to another. So for example, we could start off by doing the mind map or the brain dump, whatever we want to call it, to get the thoughts out and onto paper so we don't forget it. Then we could go through the whole, what is the most urgent, most beneficial for my business process, take away the 3 or 4 tasks. We could even throw in that Italian tomato there to break the tasks up. I can't say it still. But then, and obviously we, you know, the biggest chewable one on there, you know, to eat your frog kind of thing, get that out the way, done with, because that's going to propel your business forward fastest. And what you would have actually done is, by the time you've gone through that, and I suppose if you was actually thinking about this, I'm just talking to myself really, but if you was to sit the evening before the next day, after you've kind of gone through your day's strategy, you can sit there and go, right, okay, let's do a look at, because as things come up, you've put it down, so it's kind of like a working progress mind map. But you could sit there and then literally say, right, by 10 o'clock, I've got to do this, by this, and then you could actually start being more structured in your.
That's it.
And I think that's the ultimate goal, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. That brings you that bit of structure as well, doesn't it? Which is great.
Where we started off with, I think, at the beginning of our conversation. We got full circle, covered a couple of Italian tomatoes, a couple of frogs, and we were all good.
That is it, exactly.
Oh, Solina, it's been really enjoyable talking to you this evening. I know it's the time's been, do you know, we've been doing this for 25 minutes. Do you feel like the time flies when you're having fun?
It does. That was taking for 5 minutes.
Oh, so I'm going to start wrapping things up here. Otherwise, this video is going to take like a decade to render
go until 10 o'clock.
But what I'm going to do is, if you can just after this, give me a little message over with all your your websites and this, that, and the other. When I write my blog article for my website, I'll pop your details on there. And if anybody is obviously liking what we've done today and you've got any questions, there's a couple of things. Obviously, Solina is going to be able to still see your questions and your comments coming up on social media long after, if you're watching this in a replay. So do put your comments. She's in my social media group, the Solopreneurs Club. I can always ping her and tag her into any messages that I see as well. And if you was to use the hashtag, let me put my little scrolling thing across screen. If you use the hashtag Ask McCall Media, I've got a Google alert set up so that it will actually ping me a little message into my email box to say somebody somewhere out on the internet has actually just asked me a question. And of course, you can get hold of Solina that way, because I'll make sure I can tally the two of you up that way as well. So that's about it from me today. Thank you very much. Is there anything that we haven't covered, or anything that you would like to add, Solina, at all?
No, just have fun.
Have fun. Oh, I think we've had fun.
Have fun. Keep having fun.
No worries. Well, thank you very much for coming on and joining us today. And if you are new to McCall Media TV, these are sort of interviews that I do on a Thursday night live through my social media group, and I'm always looking for interesting people to talk to, just like yourself, Solina. So thank you very much. I'm going to wrap it up there, and I'll speak to you on the other side.
Yeah. Bye. Thank you.